Good afternoon and welcome to the Public Safety Committee work session of Wednesday, April 29th, 2026. Today we have 4 topics on the agenda for the operating budget and FY 27 through 32 capital improvements program. The first item is the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. The second is Office of Consumer Protection. The third is Fire and Rescue Services. And the fourth is a memorandum of agreement between the county and the Montgomery County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association, the MCVFRA, for the fiscal year 2027. As we begin, I'd like to thank Ms. Cummings, Mr. Mia, Ms. Farag, and Ms. Whalens for preparing the staff report for the topic today, topics, and for once again and always assembling most informative packets for us. Unless the other committee members have any opening statements, I'm going to ask the first panel to please introduce themselves and ask if they have any opening comments, and then we're going to ask Ms. Cummings to please lead us through the packet. Do you?
Good afternoon, Luke Hodgson. I'm the Director of Emergency Management and Homeland Security.
Good afternoon. I am Nicole Marcusti. I am the Deputy Director for the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security.
Good afternoon, Council Members. Derek Harrigan, Office of Management and Budget.
Thank you all. Luke, do you have any opening comments?
No, I think seeing Ms. Cummins' packet, it's pretty complete.
You've had enough comments this week, have you?
So we'll see where that goes.
Please, Ms. Cummings, if you could.
Thank you, Chair Katz. Kristen Cummings, Legislative Analyst.
If you could be a little louder or closer to the mic, please.
Absolutely. For the FY27 Emergency Management Operating Budget, the Executive recommends an increase of $1,758,165 from the FY26 budget. This recommendation includes 3 items that are subject to the reconciliation list per the Council President's guidance this year. The first one being an $800,000 allocation moving funding from grant funds to general fund reserves for the Everbridge alert system. This was previously funded by the Urban Area Security Initiative grant. $425,000 similarly moving from grants to general fund for response equipment, and $93,274 moving from grants to general funds for a position that was previously funded through Urban Area Security Initiative grants as well. Starting on page 2 of the packet, we have a summary of the recommended budget coming in for a total of $6.8 million. A little bit of information about the department is found on pages 2 and 3 of the staff report. Emergency management operates through 2 main programs, the first being administration, and the second being emergency management planning, response, and recovery. We've noted a couple of work sessions we've had through this past fiscal year. One in October, we had an overview of the Nonprofit Security Grant Program, and in January, we met to discuss a supplemental appropriation to the capital budget for the construction of a Public Safety Joint Operations Center. Information on the OBET analysis is found on pages 3 and 4. The OBET analysis awarded a score of 4, noting that the department demonstrates an emergent commitment to advancing racial equity and social justice. And we also have a reflection from the department on these pages as well, on their work in this area. And if it's amenable to the chair, we can go section by section and stop as you all have questions.
Please.
Sounds good. So going into section E for the budget discussion topics, we have our overview on page 1, and we'll get started with the items that are on the reconciliation list. So the first one is the Everbridge alert system. This was previously funded, as mentioned, by the Urban Area Security Initiative grant, and this would be moving $800,000 from the grant fund into the general fund reserves. The Everbridge alert system is the operating support system behind Alert Montgomery. They provide public-facing alerts, it supports critical county functions, and a county-wide internal contact database, as well as many, many other functions. A full list of the functionalities that's provided through Everbridge can be found on circles 130 through 138 of your staff report. The grants that were being used, that support will end June 2026, and this will necessitate the expenditure to be transferred over. And I did just want to note that the department has identified support for Everbridge system as a top operational need. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't think there's any question that we need to put that on the rec list and get a lot of head shaking up here. And I think we need to put an asterisk with that this is a very, very important part of the rec list. As most people know, it's easy to put stuff on the rec list. It's tough getting stuff off the rec list. So, but this is one that you're saving lives. I mean, what are we doing? So, please, okay. So that's a 3-0 on that. Right, okay.
Sounds great, thank you. Number 2 is replacing response equipment that was previously funded through the Urban Area Security Initiative grant. This is in the amount of $425,000. And this funding will be used to replace expiring medical supplies, specifically the public access trauma care PAT-C kits throughout the county. These kits were originally acquired through a federal grant, and these are trauma care kits that are placed in government buildings, public spaces, and schools, and allow civilians to quickly access materials that can address severe bleeding, penetrating trauma, hypothermia, and other critical injuries that may arise in an emergency situation. There are currently kits in 209 county government buildings. This funding would replace 601 kits deployed across these locations. I would just note that the PAT-C kits that are in the schools are funded by MCPS, so these are only addressing the government facility kits. We have, and it will expand coverage to 12 new facilities, bringing the number of kits deployed to 618. Some of this funding will also be funded towards other emergency preparedness needs, such as procurement of PPE, communication tools, emergency response equipment. And while this is a one-time funding mechanism, I would just note that these kits need to be replaced approximately every 5 years.
There again, this is one that, the only thing that surprises me on this is that every building comes out of fire and rescue for their budget, or not out of fire, but out of emergency management. Has it always been that way?
Yeah, that's a fair question, and this is just a program that we manage by virtue of the grants coming through us. We went ahead and managed it. So this would actually be the first time that general fund dollars will go towards this, because the initial inject was all federal grant funds. But we, as I said, we manage the program, we monitor it, we provide the training, we go out and check the kits, we check the installations, we work with the vendor who does the installations. So we're monitoring those expiration dates on the durable medical equipment and the supplies, and we just realize that they're all up for, we've either reached their expiration date or we will in FY27. So that's why we're putting it forward.
Okay. You good? Good.
It would be, I see that it was requested here, but it would be helpful to get more information about the breakdown of the expenditures within this line item, because it's a large line item and it's going to a variety of things, especially because it looks like some of it is really continuing costs for existing. We can certainly, as we look at this in the context of the reconciliation list, and there are going to be line items that are marked as this is really same services. So if you are keeping some kits that are already there and making sure that they're up to date and able to be used, then that's really same services. And I think it would be helpful probably for securing that for it to be classified as such. But then there's others that is new funding, which needs a different explanation about the importance of that, or if there's any recommendations that you are able to make about any of those that could be delayed. If there's any buildings that aren't going to be staffed yet by the time for whatever reason, if there's a reason that we might be able to delay some of these or prioritize these within this line item, that would be helpful as well.
And I appreciate that, council member. Just for the sake of clarification here, there, as Ms. Cummins mentioned, there is distinction here between what is for the public access trauma care kits, and then some of it is just the continuing maintenance of the stuff that we provide to our employees to go out and do their responses. So, flashlights have a usable life, their PPE wears. For your edification, $63,000 of that money, and we will provide this obviously afterwards, $63,000 of that line item is for the PPE uniforms, winter weather gear, uniforms and things of that nature that we're coming up to. The $387,000 remaining is all for the public access trauma care kits. When we talk about adding new kits, and you saw it, I think there were maybe 12 in there that we're adding, we're not actually paying for the kits or the cabinets. Those were provided by the Maryland Emergency Response System that they had a surplus. Okay. What we need to pay for is the installation. So there is about a $100 charge for our DGS contractors to go out there and actually install that. So it will be a minimal impact for the new ones. Nonetheless, we'll provide that breakdown for you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, my question was just, are there currently any public access government buildings that have none?
There are. We have about 30 buildings. Most of them are daycare centers that are leased by the county, looking at the list. We had a limited number of funds when we originally got this funding from the federal government. So we prioritized, and some of these buildings are very, very vast in their size. So,
right.
High schools, for instance, got a number of them just because we were talking about time to travel to these and get back to wherever the injured person might be. So there are some that have multiple kits, and then there are some that we just haven't gotten to yet. So we've estimated that it's probably about $475,000 to outfit the entirety of all of our government buildings. And we would be more than happy to provide you with that list of what isn't. I think it is fair that they were deprioritized if you look at the nature of those buildings. It's just a full DGS inventory that we compared against. I mean, some of them are electrical sheds, but
Right.
they naturally show up on that list.
Yeah, right. I hear you. I mean, electrical shed, not as high a priority as a high traffic, rec center where an incident may unfold.
To be fair, we realized that during this time, where it is a lengthy process to get the award, get it into the county budget, procure, install, Progress Place moved. So the new Progress Place was not listed as the new Progress Place. So that's one of these areas where we're using the existing kits to fill that. We know the Progress Place has a lot of population, and we want to make sure that they're covered. So we are constantly reprioritizing and moving forward. This is just really to re-up on those that are expiring.
Well, this is why it's in OEMHS, because you all cover logistics like no one else. So thank you.
Thank you.
So we're good, 3-0? Is that, yes? 3-0, okay.
Item number 3 for the reconciliation list will be a fiscal and administrative position that was previously provided or funded by the Urban Area Security Initiative grant in the amount of $93,274. This would replace the source of funding for a currently filled administrative position at 0.78 FTE. And it does propose that the position be converted into a permanent county position starting in FY27. The fiscal and administrative specialist position carries responsibilities related to departmental daily operations and ensuring department compliance with federal, state, and county requirements. The responsibilities of the position include managing accounts payable and receivable, conducting budget reconciliation, and supporting financial administration of the hazmat permitting program, along with other duties that are outlined on circles 144 through 147. The current grant fund supporting this position will end on June 30th. And this would be an ongoing expense, just to note, since it's an FTE.
We're good? Good.
So the next couple items we'll talk about are other recommended changes that won't be on the reconciliation list, but just to note them. There is a realignment, a corrective action technical budget adjustment in the amount of $420,331. As you might remember, last year in the FY26 budget, the council approved this amount of funding to move personnel expenses for 4 FTEs previously funded through the NCR Urban Area Security Initiative grant to general funds. There are emergency management specialist positions that carry responsibilities across emergency preparedness, response, community outreach, training and exercise, and volunteer donations management. And just in the last year, these were inadvertently budgeted in the grant fund, so this is simply a technical correction.
We're good.
Next, we have an enhancement of the State Homeland Security Grant Program in the amount of $279,861. The change in grant funds represents an enhancement in the State Homeland Security Program grant, and the grant funds will be used to maintain programs, equipment, supplies, and operational capacities. The change reflects the continuation of grant-funded activities within the appropriate grant budget structure, with the assumption the grants will be issued by FEMA and received.
We're good.
All right. Last but not least for this section, we have the State Homeland Security Program federal grant funding for emergency management support. This is a deduction of $120,000. And this demonstrates this reduction supporting the 0.7 FTE. And this actually supported a position within police. This is reflected moving to general funds in the police budget. But this reduction is simply due to changes in the federal grant landscape that prevent this position from being supported with grant dollars going forward.
Okay, we're good.
All right.
We'll take your money, yeah.
So the next section we have for you today, there is one CIP project adjustment to review. On April 21st, the county executive transmitted amendments to the recommended FY27 capital budget and FY27 through 32 CIP program. Within this document, the executive recommends adjusting the Public Safety Joint Operations Center, changing the scope of the project that was approved by council on February 3rd, 2026. And we do have that on circles 12 through 61. Just to briefly summarize the original appropriation that was provided, it provided $2.4 million to the OEMHS capital budget for the construction of a Public Safety Joint Operations Center as a new project, funded through GO bonds and recordation tax premiums. We have a full description of the project on page 7 of your staff report, but it would essentially support improvements to existing space within public safety headquarters, allowing cross-disciplinary coordination in response to emergency incidents at all times of the day. It co-locates Police Operations Center, Real-Time Intelligence Center, Drone as a First Responder, Fire and Rescue Operations Center, Emergency Medical Services Transport, Disposition Officer, OEMHS Security Situational Awareness, Watch Desk, Resource Management System, and Public Warning System to increase government efficiency and enhance services. The appropriated funds were reported to be used towards the infrastructure and communications enhancements. And at the time of council actions, it was anticipated that the Joint Operations Center would be built and fully operationalized within 90 days.
Yeah.
On page 7, we do have a list of all the things that the original appropriation was noted to report in the bullets there. And to talk about the adjusted CIP and project scope, so in the recent CIP memorandum that was received, it's recommended that a portion of the allocated funds be released for affordability considerations. The adjustment would reduce the scope of the project to only electrical and cabling infrastructure, and the timeline of the project would be adjusted to be implemented through a phased approach, which is a change from the 90 days originally projected when the council took action in February. Emergency management reports that some critical computer technology for the Joint Operations Center, which is operating currently, that was procured using grant funding. We do have the proposed adjustment on Circle 64. So for the committee today, the committee may choose to make a recommendation to full council to accept the changes in the project scope and funding for this project as recommended by the executive. This would reduce the scope of funding to $848,000. Funding would be used to fund cabling, information technology, connectivity only. And the remaining features of the project that were originally proposed would be implemented over time. The second option could be to recommend approval of the original project scope and funding that was approved and recommended, that was recommended by the county executive. This project would be in the amount of $2.4 million as reflected in the supplemental appropriation that was approved by council on February 3rd. And the project would proceed in timeline similarly to as originally proposed. Thank you.
Thank you. I guess I don't understand. We've approved this for this year's budget for 26 and the 2.5 million. And I don't understand why it was supposed to be within 90 days and this was February. I don't understand why it hadn't been done. And to me, I understand that we could go back to the 848, but the 848 was part of the 2.5, right? So I don't believe we should even be discussing this for the 27 budget. We've said that we're going to do it. This was 26 money, and so therefore that's where I am. I don't know where my colleagues are going to be, but please.
Yeah, and to be candid, I visited there about like a week and a half ago, maybe. Yeah, see some folks in the audience nodding. And once we made the decision as a body to appropriate those funds based on the supplemental appropriation that had come over, certain work was to be completed by Monday, May 4th. And I got to tell you, I was looking around and it didn't look like there was enough getting done. And I appreciate the agency employees who were making it work and making do with what they had. But for example, the internet wiring, the hard wiring hadn't been taken care of. They were all working off Wi-Fi, which when congested, especially if we have a significant event, can be very problematic and they can lose the signal. Our drone is first responder program is in there. Our real-time intelligence center is in there. The furniture, and I'm not, I don't think anybody's asking for anything fancy, but they literally ran around and found spare chairs from various places. Some of them look like they were from the Reagan administration. They probably were. And the radios are not wired to be working functionally. So there can be conflicting signals or it can jam things up, and that's not in everyone's best interest. So I've sent over a letter, and Director Hodgson, thank you for chatting with me about that, to say, hey, are we going to meet the deadline on Monday? Because clock's ticking. And I am not comfortable with the fact that this is somehow now a thing that we already took care of in February being made to appear to be relevant to and or part of the FY27 budget process when we already appropriated the funds this year. So I, too, join our chair in saying, no, we're not going to do this.
Go ahead.
I would like to better understand what is happening. What, I mean, are you able to speak to why this is back on the table here? And does the change in scope just reflect the reality that these funds are not going to be spent in a timely manner as we anticipated when we approved the appropriation? What happens functionally here if we say no, we're sticking with what we passed before, then what happens? And then also what happens if we say no, we're going to do a reduced amount because it's not, these funds aren't ready to be spent.
So I'm going to defer to Mr. Harrigan from OMB, if that's okay with you, Derek, to talk about how the funds were dealt with after the supplemental, and then I can talk about what we're actually doing in the space.
Thanks, Luke. Council members, we're back here having this conversation because the county executive decided that for affordability reasons to reduce the project to $848,000. That level funding was to take care of cabling, any other types of utility work that needed to happen at the PSJOC. And as funding became available over time, then we would revisit the project in a phased approach.
Okay, so after the council approved the funds in February, the county executive decided to reduce the scope and put the rest of the funding kind of to the side. And so the reason that the work hasn't progressed is because of the decision that was made at that time. And now we're being asked to formalize that decision here on the council side. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Great.
Why is affordability even discussed in this? I mean, I understand that we have it for FY27, but this isn't approved. And Derek, I mean, you're the lucky guy sitting here, but this isn't right as far as I'm concerned. We approved this, and in fact, we approved it was a supplemental, I guess, that was sent over from the county executive. So I don't know if you want to jump in, but maybe you don't. I know somebody else maybe doesn't want to jump in, but go ahead, please.
Earl Stoddard, Assistant Chief Administrative Officer. I think let's be as transparent as we can. When the county executive was reviewing operating budget, there were operating costs associated with expansion, both for personnel, both in OEMHS and in fire rescue, and not to the extent. Basically, police already had their staffing because they're basically just consolidating. And so once it was appreciated that we weren't going to be able to afford to make all of the operational changes with the facility, the county executive decided that for affordability reasons, as Mr. Harrigan alluded to, that it was better to reduce the cost of the program and take a little longer period of time to do it because we weren't going to be able to do the full JOC vision with the associated potential operating costs given the other pressures that were on before us. Furthermore, I think it's important, and I think Luke will talk a little bit about this. We were able to identify both some grant funding that was available to us through some Homeland Security grant remainings that we had. In addition, Congressman Raskin was able to secure some additional funding as well. And so we thought there was an opportunity to leverage some of those to do some of the work that would have benefited the technology pieces in the facility. But the hard wiring was something that we could not leverage grant funding to do because they will not do capital work of that nature. And so you can usually buy equipment with grants, but you can't do capital work. And so that was ultimately the decision is let's free up the additional resources that we could not use the grant, where we could use the grant funding for other things. So I'll stop there.
Go ahead, please. Thank you. Dr. Stoddard.
Thank you, Dr. Stoddard. So as Dr. Stoddard mentioned, we have been able to locate some grant funds that were available that we redirected from some of our other projects. So we have allocations that are given to us every year. As you see, the nature of the grants right now is that those are diminishing or being eliminated, but we have some that have some periods of performance that were extended to current time so that we were able to tap into them. Together, we've spent $1.144 million in grants, and that has allowed us to operationalize it. And by operationalize it, I mean we got a lot of the hardware that Dr. Stoddard mentions. It's allowable expenses through the grant. So all of the computer hardware that's down there, the peripherals associated with it, the video wall that will be there. I'm sure you know more about all the intricacies of what we did. A portion of the base station radios were purchased through that money as well. So we looked to make sure that we could continue to go with the council's direction to proceed with the Joint Operations Center. And I think everybody throughout the government on both sides of the aisle agree that we should be pursuing this. So this was our direction, was that we should leverage the grant dollars to the extent possible. And while I agree with Councilmember Lukey that the space is not aesthetically pleasing at this point, we've made a good amount of progress down there. That said, there are some limitations to what we can use the grants for, and that's becoming the hurdle that we're at right now, and that's what this funding is trying to address. So I talked about some of the radios that we had purchased, some of the computer peripherals. Obviously, the nature of DFR, with the video feeds, with the controls, with active drones, with the video feeds, the literally thousands of video feeds we're getting through FUSIS, through our real-time intelligence center, it is very broadband intensive. So we don't even need to be that crowded down there when you start seeing latency and you start seeing breakdowns. We've lost connection with the drones at least temporarily, which is very troublesome to all of us. There are many safeguards, so people shouldn't think that those were not being controlled, but the direct control with the primary pilot was temporarily interrupted. We've lost and degraded the signal from some of the videos that we've seen, and this is just the nature of Wi-Fi. We're limited by Wi-Fi. So we need to work on getting hardwire down there. We've been working closely with TEBS. They've been very accommodating with providing us with some of the stopgap measures that this coming week we'll be able to feed the DFR through county fiber, but they've been very clear that that is a very temporary solution that they're able to offer us. And then the other concern, which you articulated, Councilmember Bluke, is the radios. The radios down there, we are in a basement, for those that don't know. So by virtue of being in a basement, we're surrounded by concrete. And we have concerns about the radio frequency radiation that happens when you're transmitting in a radio and when it's confined in a space that cannot otherwise escape. So we are using portable radios now down there where the signals do bounce back and forth. The science is sort of all over the place as far as what kind of exposure and how long exposure you need. I think as a project manager, I'd rather err on the side of caution and make sure we don't expose people to that. The way to do that is we put antennas on the roof and we wire the radios to them. So that's what this also includes. There is also some power upgrades that need to be done for that to support the racks, to support the servers, to support the switches. The cost is actually a little bit more than the 800. I believe it was 848 was what was in the proposal.
That's what's in our pack.
Yeah, and we went through it. The cabling, it's $257,000. The radio infrastructure is $640,000. There's $216,000 for the radios, and then the electrical upgrades are $37,000. So that we have about 1.1 will get us to some place where everyone who operates in the Joint Operations Center is comfortable with the technology we have, with the reliability we have, and with the health and safety of our personnel down there.
So you're saying that this number should be 1.1. Is that what you're saying?
Ultimately, that's up to this body
I
and the
understand,
county
but-
executive. But what we're saying is that the networking that's associated with, I think, what's referred to in the CIP amendment, because it doesn't get too specific, and maybe Dr. Stoddard knows, was for the network cabling, the radio infrastructure, and the electrical upgrades that support both of them. So, Dr. Stoddard, do you want to weigh in if I'm off on that one?
Yeah, I wasn't in the room when it was discussed with OMB and DGS, but basically we took the line items from the original proposal that were hardwiring both radio and IT infrastructure and included all those costs in ultimately this decision. So I don't know what the delta was in terms of the difference between 848 and 1 million that Director Hodgson alluded to, but I think obviously we sent over 848, and I think that's what we're prepared to move forward with right now. I do want to say, and I think that just while I have the microphone, number one, I want to give credit to our first responders, and I want to say this because I was there some of the days when they were going through and literally cleaning the space up themselves. They've taken this as a priority for them, and they're doing a lot of the baseline work to make it happen because they realize how important it is and valuable to the frontline officers. And ultimately, I think it is clear to me, irrespective of who is either sitting in the county executive seat next year or in my seat next year, that this is going to maintain a priority because, frankly, in the several weeks that it's been operating, we've already seen tremendous benefits to our residents in real time. And so, I think, what we're saying is that, we really want the council to approve this 848 so we can address the short-term issues here. But we're going to learn lessons about how best to operate this facility in real time over the next 6 months. And I would very much expect that someone's coming back before the council sooner than later and saying, these are the additional investments we need to make in this space because we've learned by operating that this is the best way to do it. But I will tell you that much like I expect this conversation is going to be a lot like the DFR conversation where the proof will be in the pudding and you're going to see how effective it is. We've already had an instance where we've shaved minutes off of a response time to a shooting, which anyone in this room will tell you minutes make differences. And that's we expect that this room is going to serve that purpose very effectively. And so I think if we get the 848 that we've suggested, we'll be able to move forward with safe operations of the facility. But I can assure you there will be additional costs that will improve and enhance the room.
All right, so, but the 848, you're saying should come out of the 27 budget rather than the 26 budget? We had approved it,
26.
26. So the 848, that number can come off of for 27, right?
This is just a proposed adjustment to the FY26 funds that were allocated by the council. So the original 2-point-some million that was originally appropriated.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's been just under 3 months since we appropriated the about 2.4 million. And as we're sitting here today, we're still sort of sifting through what's going to be the right landing amount for the future. And I agree with Dr. Stoddard. It's these are going to be ongoing conversations for FY27. But then my question is why the 848 was picked exactly, because that seems like it, even just now in the discussion, wasn't quite where we need to land in order to just accomplish the basic technological and worker safety things that Director Hodgson had referenced. And we're not really talking about it doesn't matter in the context of the FY27 budget, which is the rest of the stuff we're dealing with. And so I feel like we're in a spot where we shouldn't make adjustments to the thing we already approved, and we should leave it alone while everyone continues to sort this out. FY26 will close, FY27 will start. Maybe not all of it gets encumbered or used. We will deal with it later, but I'm not comfortable with this coming up or being inherently intertwined with an FY27 budget discussion, which it's not actually part of. And while everyone is still sorting out how to get the basics accomplished so that this can run in the way that it needs to. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Dr. Sutter, could you speak to how or whether this matters on the ground in terms of whether we actually make this adjustment versus, as Councilmember Lutke just noted, we kind of keep the record clean in terms of what we approved before, and then functionally what's spent is spent and what's not is not?
I don't think on the ground, I think on the ground it would be okay to do. I just don't know from a budgeting standpoint what this would, that would be an OMB question. I'm not prepared to say that if you don't rescind the delta between the 2.4 and the 840,000, what that would mean for the FY27 budget as is being proposed with the amendments that you all have gotten. So I can't speak to that piece of it. Good. There we go.
Someone phoned a friend, right? Go ahead, please.
Veronica Howell from OMB. Well, having these available GEO bonds, 371,000, we will be freeing up, and $101.2 million in cash equivalents will help to support the operating budget development for FY27.
But, and I appreciate that, but what is the number that we should we not put any of this in for 27 and say that you're going to get it from the money from 26? How is this going to work?
You get it from the FY26 because this is an adjustment to the supplemental approved in FY26.
I'm not clear.
So that then would be shifted into our totals for FY27 operating budget. That's what you're saying?
You could, we are releasing, this adjustment for 848 would be releasing $371,000 in GEO bonds. That goes back to the set aside. Then it could be used for anything in FY27. The recordation taxes could be used to, through a funding switch, release carbon revenue that then could be used for FY27.
Okay.
So you are pretty much it was done, it is an adjustment for affordability to allow to have funds for FY27, considering the FY27 budget development is so challenging in terms of fiscal.
Yeah.
Resources.
Okay. All right. Got it. This is all a little bit confusing, and don't, as colleagues have noted, the changes to the FY26 budget coming into the discussion with FY27 adds some confusion, but I understand why it's relevant, and I certainly want to appreciate the work that was done by Congressman Raskin's office to secure grant funding that can be used in this space, and to create a little bit of wiggle room there. That's federal maneuvering, not always easily done these days, and I want to make sure that we take advantage of that. We also do have, in a number of ways, obviously, a very difficult budget that we're looking at, and so given the needs that we have there, which we talk about every day here, any opportunity to take advantage of our federal funding that we're able to get from our partners, as well as some creative maneuvering on the ground, as well as a recognition of the realities that, and here's the part where I'll just note, like, I feel like this part should have been recognized before. Like, if we're not going to have the operating budget to be able to fund the operations, then, that it would make sense for that to adjust the timeline of completing this project. But regardless, making sure that we are taking that into account and that we have an appropriate timeline that reflects that. I think that is something that we should do. And so my inclination is to accept the changes here, take advantage of the funds that are available and the realities of the timeline in terms of the operating costs that are going to go along with all this, and move forward with the amendment.
Go ahead, please.
And Dr. Starter, I don't know if you can speak to this, but the funds that came from Congressman Raskin are funds that can't be used for capital projects, correct?
So we got to be careful how we frame capital. Capital in the federal world typically means can't be used for like hard infrastructure.
Right.
You typically can use it for technology, for example, which sometimes in technology can be in capital, and sometimes that can be in operating. And so in cases where, for example, computer stations or, like the wall screens and things of that nature, you can often use the federal funding to do those things. But if it's inside the walls, if it's, that kind of thing, that's a hard no from a federal funding standpoint.
And is this funding from Congressman Raskin separate from the funding that was authorized for the crisis intervention team work?
It is separate. This actually is funding that it's been years in the making. It was actually towards the Real-Time Intelligence Center. That's what it was actually framed as. But obviously, as you recognize, the Real-Time Intelligence Center has been now combined with other features to form the JOC. And so our Real-Time Intelligence Center is a segment of the JOC, which, utilization of those funds to support that segment frees up, we're dual purposing a lot of the technology anyway. The front screen is serving the RTIC, and it's also serving DFR, and is also serving the other functions of the facility. And so it's a, the model has evolved since the federal funding was secured, but the operations and intent are still included in the overall JOC.
Okay, thank you.
So we've managed to make this as confusing as we can. So what is the number that we're looking at for 27? Ms. Cummins, do you know that, or can you figure that out by the time it comes to full council?
371, I think.
Yes, I'll coordinate with OMB. My understanding is that this is a change that would be reflected in FY26, and it would be funds that could be encumbered, rolled over into FY27, but we'll coordinate and make sure we have something clear.
Okay. Are we okay that we want to approve this? Or, I don't know whether, yes, we want to approve this, but we have to figure out how we're going to approve it, okay? All right. Okay, let's move on, please.
Okay, thank you.
Can I make, we were just talking, and so one way that the committee could do this is, there's 1.2 in cash. I think that is the most important for the FY27 budget consideration. So you could theoretically free up the 1.2 and just leave the 371 delta as the question for Ms. Cummings to figure out exactly the GEO bond delta what exactly the numbers alignment between Director Hodgson and what we actually need. I think that might be because the 1.2 is really what you all, I would imagine, are most interested in, because that's FY27 cash.
And I'm fine with that, and hopefully you can have some other side conversations and get us $1 million each time. So anyhow, if you can figure out this mess for us by the time it goes to full council, which won't be that long, okay, please.
I'll do my best. Next one, moving on, is on page 8 of the staff report. Just wanted to note another budget-related item is the Nonprofit Security Grant Program. In FY26, $1.2 million was allocated towards this. And the department reports that the allocation covered every qualified request within the established reward gap, and a $500,000 supplemental appropriation to provide additional funding to the FY26 Nonprofit Security Grant Program to support eligible organizations at risk was transmitted to Council on April 9th and was introduced on the 28th. Public hearing and action will follow in the next few weeks. And it's reported that this addition will support 49 eligible organizations, which is all to say, should the additional $500,000 be approved in FY26, that would put the allocation for the program at $1.7 million. And I did just want to note that the department did provide some very thorough information on the utilization of the program funds for this year. And those are found on pages 149 through 52 of the staff report.
Okay. So is there anything we need to do in addition right now on that? Okay.
Just where we.
And I guess we had the press conference, what was it, 2 weeks, last week, 2 weeks ago. Are we all fine on that? Mm-hmm. Okay. Anything else, please?
That brings us to our conclusion. On the last page, page 9, we have a table showing the 3 reconciliation list items that were discussed. And that is all. Thank you.
Good. Did you please go ahead? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to thank this body, County Council in general, and the county executive, as well as all the leadership on the executive side. We've been going through many years of the federal contraction in the support that has for many decades since our inception supported us. And I have a lot of colleagues all over the country who are facing a cliff this year that are about to lose the majority of their program, and their communities will suffer for that. But this body, the county executive, the broader county council, all of the leadership has had the foresight to see how important this is to the community, and you've gradually prepared us for this. And we've had no interruption in services. In fact, we've become more efficient and economical in the way we've done things, thanks to your cooperation. So I thank you on behalf of our office, the mission, and those that we collectively serve.
Well, and thank you for all that you do. I know Councilmember on my right here wants to say something, but thank you for all that you do. And also, Dr. Stoddard, before you were in this position. Please, go ahead.
Well, this is right on theme because I just wanted to say thank you because we see you, I see you on the ground, honestly, more than I would like in my district, responding to emergencies. But your team is absolutely top notch, and you know you come into very complicated and difficult situations, and it's not always not always complicated in the ways that probably people would assume it would be complicated. There's a lot of that has to be navigated on the ground, even in terms of personalities and bad actor landlords and all sorts of things that come into play as you're trying to protect the life and safety and do what needs to be done. And your team, when I hear that y'all are being called, I know that the cavalry is coming for these large scale situations, and I really appreciate it. I want to give a shout out to Chris Burt, and and I've also watched you all, like many of our first responders, navigating these spaces, building relationships with community members that then pay back in dividends in these moments of crisis, and being willing to partner with community members in a way that makes sense, and have them being willing to partner with you all, and to share information and to help build trust and relationships. And I've seen that play out multiple times in these very high stakes situations. And so I'm sorry to hear about what's happening in other jurisdictions, but we see the value of the work here, and we're committed to making sure it continues to move forward.
And thank you for that acknowledgement. It's an honor to serve. It really is. And I think our staff feels the same way. And I want to thank you for being in the trenches with us during all of those emergencies. Thank you.
She's had a lot of experience at that. I mean, she's.
We'll let you know
Try
we're
not to get in the
hiring.
way. I
She doesn't
appreciate
want
it.
that much experience as she's had. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say thank you, because despite the fact that the federal government has seemingly abandoned its emergency response functions, we're not going to. And we're going to stay prepared, and we're going to continue providing the services that our residents expect and need. And I thank you all for it.
All right, so we're at 3-0, right? Very good. Thank you very much. Next is consumer protection, please. Any opening comments? No? Okay. Mr. Friedman, if you would like to tell us who you are, please, and if you and your group have any opening comments. You're going to need to cut on your mic. There you go.
Good afternoon. We're glad to be here. My name is Eric Friedman. I'm the Director of the Office of Consumer Protection, and we have our management team with us, our full management team with us, and the staff from OMB as well. You want to introduce yourselves?
Eva Acevedo from the Office of Management and Budget.
Sean Carew, Office of Consumer Protection.
Brittany Klingerman, Office of Consumer Protection.
Very good. Do you have any opening comments? Or?
Just very quickly, we are seeing a rise in harmful business practices, not just scams, but unfair and deceptive practices across a range of industries that impact consumers every day. We know that education is working. And we know that consumers, when they have information and know their rights, they are better able to protect themselves and make informed decisions. That's why we are strengthening our focus on prevention, expanding outreach, building community partnerships, and ensuring our resources are accessible and inclusive, especially for communities that face barriers to information and services. Our goal is to prevent harm before it happens. We continue to support consumers and merchants when issues arise. Thank you.
First, and again, thank you all for everything you do. We're going to ask Mr. Mia to please lead us through this packet.
Okay. It's fairly straightforward budget for FY27, really just the same services budget. The executive is recommending an increase of $97,005, or 3% from the FY26 approved. The increase is entirely, the vast majority is for compensation adjustments. There's a modest amount for print and mail and motor pool adjustments as well. There is a reduction of $10,000 for one-time items that are approved in FY26. This was funding provided for Office of Equipment and Furniture for 2 new positions that were included in FY26 approved budget for implementing Bill 6-25. So those dollars are being unbudgeted for FY27. Beyond that, the OBET score for OCP is a 10, demonstrating a proactive and strategic commitment to advancing racial equity. The analysis indicated there may be some improvements with the department's mission statement as advertised on their website, so that's an area for them to focus on. But again, other than that, it is a same services budget with with really increases related to compensation. So
I'm good with it. Yeah, we're good. 3-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is, might be a little slower than the last one. Fire and rescue is up next. It might take a little bit longer for this budget.
Can I say something as a dismissing about NCP?
What?
Can I say something real quick?
Sure, go ahead.
Thanks. As the transition is happening, and Director Friedman, as you're on your way out, I just wanted to commend OCP for their building out a volunteer corps and a volunteer corps to do that prevention and outreach work. I am just filibustering here, but to do that prevention and outreach work, and I just really want to commend that proactive response to what you all are observing on the ground. It's very impressive, and I appreciate that it's a budget that was easy for us to approve 3-0. But we did read the memo. It's a lot of excellent work, and I know that as district council members, we are seeing the impacts too, and so having it laid out the way the response is being formulated here is great, and I look forward to continuing to partner with you all to help these services and opportunities reach into all the corners of our constituencies.
And I appreciate you bringing that up. And I noticed that she made you turn around, Eric, when she said that she was going to give me a compliment. So anyhow, thanks. Thank you all for what you do. All right. So if this panel could please introduce themselves. Chief, yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Corey Smelly, Fire Chief.
Dominic Del Pozo, Fiscal Management Division Chief and Fire and Rescue.
Vivian Nico, Office of Management and Budget.
Good afternoon, Michael Kelly, Division Chief, Volunteer Services.
Gary Cooper, Division Chief.
Charles Bailey, Division Chief.
D. Howard Richards, Division Chief.
Very good. Ms. Frog, would you like to lead us through this, please?
Sure. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the proposed FY27 recommended budget, operating budget for the fire department. It has about a $1.6 million increase, or 0.5% over last year's approved budget. If the budget is approved as recommended, the total budget would be about $312 million for FY27. The executive's recommendation does not include any programmatic or staffing additions, enhancements, or other cost increases that must be placed on the reconciliation list per the council president's budget approach. That means that if there were any general fund increases anywhere in the budget, they were to be placed on the reconciliation list with some limited exceptions, including certain known commitments, which we'll get to shortly. The operating budget equity tool analysis states that the department has earned a commitment level rating of 6, demonstrating a sustained commitment to advancing racial equity and social justice. I have not identified any other potential reductions for committee consideration at this point. Every year you do have to approve draft budget resolution language for EMST fees and ESPP revenue distribution to the local volunteer fire and rescue departments, and I've included that on circles 35 through 37 for your review. And the committee will also review and discuss 2 additional FY27 to 32 CIP program amendments, which have not yet been reviewed by committee, and that includes apparatus replacement program, which was the March 13th amendment, and the White Flint Fire Station, which was an April 21st amendment. I do give some pretty detailed background on the fire department, and I'm going to mention 2 things just because the entire context of the budget is kind of framed by these. And here I am being my broken record again on overtime, and that is the first thing that I wanted to talk about. The fire department, kind of like corrections, they have mandatory posts where they have minimum staffing requirements. They have 315 seats that they have to have filled on all the different pieces of apparatus around the county. That changes in the career and volunteer mix, depending on whether it's Monday through Friday or it's nights and weekends. And there's a chart on page 2 that outlines that they handled about 143,000 emergency calls for service last year. And again, approximately 78% of those were emergency medical services calls. There's a map on page 3 for your reference, just because we're talking about very specific stations in this budget, and I wanted that to be readily available to people. In terms of overtime, for the past 10 years, the department's budgeted overtime has not accurately reflected known personnel costs for delivering services to the community. For FY26, the overtime expenditures are already actually $7 million over budget, and the department has advised that they expect to submit an FY26 supplemental appropriation for $11.7 million on overexpended personnel costs, which we have not yet received. There's a chart, again, going back a decade for you on page 4 that's showing the different cost overruns, and in fact, in FY25, they were $15 million over what was budgeted. These are known costs of staffing these different pieces of apparatus. So it's, as I've, again, broken record, it is imperative, in my opinion, that these are accurately reflected in the budget every year. Table 3 on the same page has a list broken out of the different operational drivers of the overtime. It's mostly firefighter and paramedic backfill. Also instructor time at the academy are the top 3. And as I did last year on table 4 on page 5, the top 20 overtime earners in 2025, this is calendar 2025, I do want to note that one individual earned $315,000 in overtime. Total earnings, which included base salary as well as longevity, was $472,000 for the year. I also want to bring to your attention, as you know, the state law changed. The General Assembly just passed Senate Bill 445 and its cross-filed bill, House Bill 532, which requires governmental units that employ firefighters to compute overtime pay for each hour over 168 hours that a firefighter works during a 28-day work period. That bill will not take effect. It has a delayed effective date of October 1st of 2028, which will allow some additional time to plan for the operational and fiscal impacts that it'll have on our department. But the department is advising that for Montgomery County, with the schedules that predominantly run 48 hours per week, this is going to result in about 6 hours a week of a regular firefighter's regular shift schedule being paid in overtime, which is time and a half. They estimate that impact in FY26 dollars is going to be about $10.6 million. So it's really imperative that policymakers start taking under consideration how to more appropriately budget overtime to reflect actual known costs. The other piece that I wanted to mention is the master plan. In FY24, the council approved the department's master plan, and that planning document is required by law, but it recognizes that resources are finite and that future demand must be met through data-informed deployment and not simply by adding more people, stations, or apparatus. It dives deep into using data, identifying and understanding community vulnerability and risk, and service needs. There's a strong emphasis placed on community risk reduction. In terms of the operating budget equity tool analysis, they scored a 6 on this year. They indicate that it plans to implement certain recommendations from the National Academy of Public Administration report on staffing and create a strategic recruitment plan, revise the entrance exam process, and modify internal hiring processes for special teams. I also wanted to point out that the department has staffed a fire science and rescue cadet program in MCPS, which takes place at the Public Safety Training Academy. Students from all high school clusters are eligible to apply. The rising 11th grade students can apply to the fire and rescue course, and rising grade 12 students can apply to the EMT course. Student enrollment in that program has historically been very diverse, and in addition, the fire department has for at least a year run the Girls Wired for Fire Camp each summer, which helps girls and young women who have historically been underrepresented in the fire department experience firefighting and EMS skills and activities, and they plan to do that again this summer. This is the department that I did a base budget review for, and that's attached for your review. I'm not going to get into too much information about that unless you have any specific questions. Again, there are no items here that go on the reconciliation list under the council president's approach, but there are 12 items that I think it's important for the committee to take under consideration, and I'm happy to start moving through those.
And we're going to, as you go through them, we'll talk about them as we go so we don't get lost in this. Please.
So budget change number 1 is the staffing change to the aerial tower 724 at Hillendale Station. That would result in a savings of about $1.8 million. It removes 9 career staff from Hillendale, 9 FTEs. They're not abolished. I need to make that clear. I confused somebody earlier today. Or they just want to make sure I was clear, I should say. It moves them to address this structural budget problem with the overtime cost overruns that we have every year. So the aerial tower, I just wanted to note for people listening at home, is a ladder, generally 100 feet long with an elevated platform. It provides an elevated surface for rescuing occupants or delivering elevated water streams. The piece of apparatus would remain at the station. There's a chart that reflects response data for this unit, Aerial Tower 724, over the past 5 years on page 10. As you'll see, they had about 1,466 calls in calendar 2025. And one of the questions I asked for both of the staffing changes that you'll discuss today is what the department would do, recognizing that this might have a service impact and how they would mitigate that service impact. I'm just briefly going to touch on the fact that there are other towers around that general area and turn it over to the fire department if you have much more detailed requests for information on that. But they indicate it would shift demand to neighboring aerial units, specifically 18 in Glenmont, 16 in Four Corners, and 15 in Burtonsville. They do give a little bit of background that there are 3 high-rise structures within Hillendale's immediate response area, but its primary first due area consists largely of single-family dwellings. 24 also benefits from overlapping aerial coverage from 25 in Aspen Hill and the other 3 units that I just mentioned, and they indicate that 2 of those units are staffed with 4-person staffing. They also advise that of the different types of system impacts, in order to find savings, this change has the least system-wide operational impact compared to alternatives.
Please.
First, I understand the need to find savings somewhere and in a very difficult fiscal situation. That said, I think that we at least need to have this on the table as we go into reconciliation, because there is a reduction in service that is associated with it. And I will just note that the East County area historically, for a very long time, has taken the brunt of, when there has to be reduction somewhere, where is it going to, and this is something that this body, but this executive branch as well, I know has been actively working to mitigate. But this is a tough one. This is a tough one to move forward with. So I would like to keep this one on the table as we go into reconciliation. And I do want to note that I want to make sure that my framing is clear, that that's, slighting East County, of course, is not what is happening here. I recognize that you all have looked at where your resources are and recognize that you have been, all departments have been asked to put forward cuts, and you had to put forward something. I also would ask my colleagues to allow us to keep this one on the table as we move into reconciliation, because reducing service, essential service that is, looking out for the health and safety of our residents. I think this should be one of the last places that we're turning.
So I know Hillendale's not my district. It's just south of where I am, in Councilmember Mink's district. But the first 3 items are inherently intertwined on this list that Ms. Farag is going through. And I have concerns about how this is being done, because at the end of the day, and to the public, it makes it appear as though it is the council's choice, or the council engaging in operational decision making, which we are not, and it's not our job. But those are decisions that the department can make, and I get that. They aren't necessarily budget decisions, though. They are purely, really, actually operational, because to the point that Ms. Farag made about the $11.7 million in overtime this year, things still get staffed, right? And so we also have the issues, especially when you're talking about Hillendale on the way east, or Laytonsville, which is the next one, or Hyattstown, which we talked about last year, which, again, these are operational decisions that are within the chief's purview to make the decisions, but they are not really actually monetary budget decisions in quite that way, given the amount of overtime we spend anyway. So it is about how you want to staff, where you're going to staff, and so on. And I don't want the public thinking we're making decisions about taking things in or out of a particular fire station and also not having had the opportunity to hear how the push-pull on the system, which is, again, an operational discussion, not a dollars and cents discussion, but the push-pull on the system for stations like Hillendale, which is all the way on the east, or in Laytonsville, where there's not much else there. And as it stands, the other closest stations, like in Olney, already I see other stations having to support Olney when Olney's too overloaded. So what does that mean for the top part of my district, right? So I too agree with my colleague about this and want to make sure that these are items that are left for the full council's consideration. I also just wanted to plant that flag that I don't like having, the second year in a row, things that are really truly operational decisions coming to council purportedly as budget items when they're not in that way. And I do think we need to look at overtime, how overtime gets calculated in the department. I know we have the new state law that we've got to grapple with, right? But then, how does it work if people are taking leave and then accruing overtime in the same work week? Because that's kind of weird, right? We were precluded from doing that at the state, whether you were someone like me who could only earn comp time, or you were someone who could earn paid overtime. That was just not allowed. And I don't know the ins and outs of that and the collective bargaining agreement and what is allowable and what isn't allowable. But those are things we should take a look at to the point that, again, Ms. Frog had flagged earlier with a really significant amount of overtime earned by just one person. So there are lots of things that land in your lap, Chief Smedley, as chief, and I get that. And I think, we're all eager to help as those types of operational decisions move along, figure out what that means for the department and then fiscal impacts there too. But I don't really feel like these are appropriate, quote unquote, budget items for the council's consideration.
And I agree but Chief, I'd like you to respond, but we keep referring to the first three things on our list. And the first is the staffing adjustment for the Hillendale, the aerial tower. The second was staffing adjustments for Laytonsville. And the third is convert day work EMS transport unit to 24-hour operation. If you'd like to comment on all of them, since we keep referring to them.
Yes, thank you for that opportunity. I've been waiting for that. First and foremost, however this budget lands, as you all know, but I need to say it, we have an amazing combination department. Some amazing volunteers, amazing union members, and command staff. And at the end of the day, we're going to figure it out like we always have. We are going through some growing pains in our department right now, which is normal. If there was a different fiscal climate, we'll be talking differently, and different things will be presented to you. But based off the constraints and the difficult decisions the county executive has to make, as well as this body, we're trying to be partners and be fiscal stewards of the resources you provide us. So we use our master plan. We actually are putting our master plan in action. And so, yes, we've asked for things, and fiscally they are not able to go through. And so, therefore, we have to look at other ways to be great stewards of our resources. And some of the things that we look at, first and foremost, is the health of our community. And most of the time, the health of our community is taken care of by emergency medical services. So that's why you see converting a day work station to shift work. We were able to do that with a zero balance because we found a creative way to take care of rescue capabilities at the Laytonsville area with a rescue engine. There are obviously differences of opinion in that space, but we were able to take personnel from a day work space and convert them over to the Travilla station to transfer that day work transport unit to a 24-hour. The tower conversation, as Susan talked about, Ms. Farag talked about, is really the least worst impactful decision. These are not great opportunities to change things this way, but we're used to these resources, right? I would argue that sometimes the resources that we're adjusting might not be the priority that's needed. And so EMS is what's needed, but we've been used to what we've been used to, and it's very difficult to see otherwise. And so that's where the growing pain comes from. So at the end of the day, as I started, we're going to figure it out. And we have examples since I've been here and before I've gotten here, when the three pillars of the organization come together, the volunteers, the union, and management, we are creative enough to figure it out. And we use that example at Burtonsville about a year ago when we had some challenges, and we came together and figured it out. What we have to realize, and it's going to take a little bit of juggling with this, saying no is unacceptable. It's a non-negotiable for any of the pillars, myself, the union, or the volunteers. We have to figure out being flexible and an open mind to figure out how do we move forward with trying to take care of our community. And we're going to ask for more. Sometimes we're going to get that, and then sometimes we have to readjust how we do things.
I appreciate that. And there again, we want to thank everyone for everything that they do. But for I guess we're on number one at this point. And as far as I'm concerned, I certainly will support putting the Hillendale Tower on the, 1.7 on the rec list.
So that votes 3-0 for that to place
Yes.
on the rec list. Okay, thanks.
And then the next one is Laytonsville.
Yes. So this change removes 6 FTE career staff from Station 717 in Laytonsville who currently assist with staffing the rescue squad. Again, just for a brief explanation, the rescue squad is a vehicle that primarily carries a wide range of specialized tools and extrication equipment to rescue people trapped in cars, collapsed building, or other situations. During a structure fire, that crew focuses on searches for occupants. On Table 7, you have some response data for Rescue Squad 717 for calendar 2025. They had approximately 400 calls for this piece of apparatus. This change is not listed as a service impact in the recommended budget. It kind of travels with the budget change number 3 that we'll discuss. We can discuss them in tangent if you want to. The department advises that it does not impact services because 17 will maintain full extrication capabilities through the deployment of a rescue engine. This type of apparatus consolidates paramedic engine capabilities and the extrication functions into a single piece of apparatus. Further, the broader Laytonsville area remains reliably protected by the overlapping extrication capabilities of Rescue Squad 729 in Germantown and Truck 734 in Milestone. In fact, the department has advised council staff that the change would be a measurable service improvement for the surrounding community. The current staffing model for the station is 6 career personnel nights and weekends, and in the absence of available volunteer personnel, these 6 staff are forced to simultaneously cross-staff a paramedic engine, a rescue squad, a tanker, and an ambulance, which is the transport unit. And this approach routinely leads to service gaps where units fail to respond because assigned staff are already deployed or on another piece of apparatus, or just can't physically respond with multiple vehicles. The department is advising that focusing its staff into a rescue engine and a transport unit will guarantee consistent response capabilities and eliminate some operational failures.
Did you want any further comments? We know where you are.
Yeah. Again, what I'm seeking is just making sure we have full operational capabilities and we're not leaving particularly an up-county, more rural jurisdiction. Because, for folks who live in Laytonsville, they're like, Germantown's not around the corner. It isn't. And it's the piece here about we're taking staffing away, right? So I'm just trying to explain this in layman's terms. Like we all know, look, this is like some kind of county executives like, hey, I need y'all to play some little budget shell game here with us to make the books look right. And I know you can't speak to that, so I'm just saying it because it's been very apparent. And in this particular case, what it comes across to the public as is it makes it sound like, oh, well, the council committee says it's okay to cut 6 firefighters from our station. That's the takeaway that people get, and that's not what we want. Again, I am confident in your abilities as chief to make these operational decisions internally and deploy them as such and work through things as you test out. Right? You've been studying the data and what the needs are of the county, and I support that and appreciate that. But it's not really a budget item. It's an operational decision, and it's not actually a budget item, because those 6 people, wherever they are, we're not really, it's not about cutting people or not cutting people. It's about whether personnel would be assigned there or not. And yet it makes it come as though it is a savings in the budget, which it is not, because overtime is going to be overtime, and it just is what it is. So happy to hear you speak to that. But again, I respectfully request that we treat this the same as we are treating Hillendale.
Thank you. So this conversation about the Laytonsville rescue engine happened well over a year ago. And with the constraints that we had to contend with not having people lose their job, it's adjusting service delivery. And so it's a little different than the Hillendale conversation, because the service is still going to be there at Laytonsville. It won't be there in the manner it's at Hillendale currently, but it will be there in Laytonsville in a different vehicle. And although a rescue engine is smaller than a heavy rescue squad, the lion's share of the rescue calls that are ran can be covered and has been covered with the tools that are capable of being stored on that rescue engine. And so the savings came from reducing the staffing at that particular station and restoring them at the Trevilla station, because we asked for a transport unit and the budget just did not support it moving forward as recommended. And so this was an opportunity to say, if we have these resources available, instead of using them to curtail overtime, it will help the community directly by putting an advanced life support unit from a day work to 24 hours. So that's the impetus of how that happened. And just like the example other places we have, we're working to make sure that we're doing our due diligence to bolster volunteerism, recruitment, and retention. We just had a course not too long ago where a lot of volunteers were there, as well as our recruitment team, to talk about best practices. So another example where we did similar things, it actually helped some of the volunteers get additional riding time and experience, and we're hoping that we can do things like that. But again, I respect your decision. I can tell you the discussion of the rescue engine happened well over a year ago.
Yeah, no, I'm aware that there's been ongoing discussions about the rescue engine. My issue is then if again, it's an operational decision and you could have just made it, but then it makes it become as though the council's making the operational decision. That's where I am fundamentally having the problem. Okay. And so if it really is an operational decision, again, I respect that is within your authority to make that. But I don't want the department or the county executive making the council make operational decisions under the guise of it being a budget item that it really isn't, because it isn't.
Clear.
Thank you.
And I agree, this is not a budgetary item, but I do believe that this should be placed on the reconciliation list, just like Hillendale. Did you? Go ahead, please.
Just functionally to this point. So if I hear the operational improvements that you're talking about, and I also hear my colleague's point that why are we doing operational changes as part of the budget? And so just if anybody wants to speak to that, I don't know if that would be.
I'll start, and anybody else want to chime in. When you look at the guidance that was provided and the amount that covers, about $11 million for 3.5%, and you're not no one is losing their job. The only other place to impactfully meet that demand is services, which is going to turn into operations. 84% of our budget are us, is the people. And so other than that, we have 16% operating. I gotta buy medication. I gotta fix fire trucks. All those things have to happen. So when we talk about anything as large as this and we're not getting rid of positions, it's going to impact services, which is going to bleed into our operations. And unfortunately, that's some of the dynamics that I control. The other aspect outside of what what I can control. It's something that is another difficult conversation to take place.
But this looks like a budget neutral, like 1.2 and 1.3. This looks budget neutral, so I'm confused about. I'm confused about how
If you're
this
talking
is-
about the Laytonsville one.
Yeah, for the Layton. I'm sorry. Yes, the Laytonsville one.
You're absolutely correct. It was going to just be the 6 personnel were going to curtail overtime. I pretty much begged and pleaded because we need more transport units to allow us to at least use those positions to transfer a day work to a 24-hour, and that's why it looks that way.
But could this be done? Could that shift be made without us approving these 2 budget neutral line items? So this $500,000 will just remain in the budget, right? The money will be there. It's not being we are not the ones who moved it from one place to another, but could you just move personnel?
Do I have the operational authority to
Correct.
answer your question? Yes.
Okay.
I do have the operational authority.
Okay.
The information and the dynamics of how we got here with our partners are still going to exist. And part of the year-long discussion, the reason it took a year long and we still haven't gotten over the finish line is because we're trying to grow together and help each other understand it. It's not an easy task. But to answer your question, absolutely, I have the operational authority to make those moves.
Okay, so in that case, I think that I'm going to go along with my colleagues here and support putting this on the reconciliation list. And I will note for the record that I am not actually weighing in on whether the shift should be moved or not moved, because that's an operational decision which I leave up to you, considering that it's budget neutral. And if there's any additional information that you want to provide us between now and full council that might flesh out why doing it this way is necessary, then by all means, I'm sure all of us would be happy to receive that information. But I will go along with my colleagues on this and leave the operational decision making to you all. Thanks.
All right, so that's a 3-0 to put it on the reconciliation. But I think the reason it's even coming before us is because for many years we've talked about overtime, and this would help alleviate some of those overtime concerns. Certainly not all of the overtime concerns, but some, and that's why it's even before us. Go ahead.
Actually, I just want to make sure that there is not a risk of colleagues accepting the 1.2 but not 1.3. Could we combine this, please, into one line item, because functionally that's all we're talking about. Nobody up here is considering or would recommend that our colleagues take this just as a reduction. And the only reason that we're talking about putting it on the reconciliation list is because we are making sure that the operational portion of this is just handled by the department. So if we could combine those two, that would be.
I can note that for the reconciliation list and also stress that you wanted to remove this from a budget discussion and let it remain as an operational decision.
Okay, I just want to make sure that functionally we cannot take the one without the other, because if that could happen, then I want to remove the whole thing from the reconciliation list. So if we can just make sure that is taken care of before full council, just as a technicality, so that we don't inadvertently get a different result.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Frog, please.
So I did want to go through 1.3 anyway, which is converting a day work EMS transport unit to the 24-hour operation. This would shift, if approved. As you said, these two pieces will be traveling together on the reconciliation list, but it would have shifted 6 FTEs from the Rescue Squad 17s personnel to staff medic 732 unit, which is at Travilla, which is near Adventist Shady Grove Hospital, and convert it from a day work only unit to a 24-hour unit. Station 32 is one of the busiest in the county, and it has responded to over 15,000 calls for service in 2025. Medic 732 as a day unit only responded to 1,200 calls last year.
So we've already discussed that one, so yes, that's on the list. Yeah.
I did want to mention, and please, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, it was my understanding last year that they had wanted at least 3 transport units. The budget approved 1 transport unit. I think that this was a less expensive way to upstaff an ALS unit in a really critical part of the county that has high needs. which would have been cheaper, and again, please, Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, if they had a new ALS transport unit put into service in the budget, that would have required 10 FTEs instead of shifting this in a budget neutral way.
And just for those who are watching at home, ALS is Advanced Life
Yes.
Support. Yeah, I can read a packet. Yeah, I'm pretty good. Yeah.
So I'll note that this item 2 is on the reconciliation list and should travel with 1.2.
Please.
And that's a vote of 3-0.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Thank you.
All right, we're all the way up to number 4.
Yes, this is just a risk management adjustment. Again, the risk management is the county self-insurance fund. They pay claim settlements from it, and it's managed by the Department of Finance, and they're basically charging back based on risk and actual use and what they project it's going to cost them in the year moving forward. And it's an adjustment of 1.3 million increase.
I think we're good. Yes, we're good.
Okay. Budget change number 5 is an insurance premium. This pays insurance that cover the local fire and rescue departments. It reflects premium adjustments that were made last year, and the FY26 premiums totaled about 4.1 million.
We're good. Yes.
The next 6 are getting into contracts. I had asked the department for a lot of detail on this to understand if it was a known commitment and contractual obligation. And the next 6 are, and I will go through them pretty briefly. The Emergency Medical Service Bound Tree contract for $240,000 reflects actual expenditures under the contract. This is the primary source for department's medical supplies and technology. In FY23, the expenditures were almost $500,000. That increased almost $900,000 in FY24, and it's remained fairly consistent since then. They're securing a new contract for FY27, which should last for 3 years, and expects expenses to remain around $900,000 per year.
All right, so it's called the Medical Services Bound Tree? What is
Bound Tree is the vendor, I believe.
Is that what it is?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, it seems strange. Could we put in there that that's the vendor's name or something?
Absolutely.
So, but we're good, I think, for the money.
Fine.
Okay.
The next one is for robot software upgrade and maintenance for $150,000. This includes software upgrades to existing robot units, including X-ray capabilities, batteries, security software, and 2 years of software maintenance.
We're good.
Number 8 is personal protective equipment, cleaning and repair contract escalations for about $130,000. The contract was expiring in December of 25, and it includes per item costs for cleaning and inspection. It had been $25.98, and the new contract has a per item cost of $35. The total fiscal impact is based just on this price difference and based on the current volume of PPE cleaning.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, just wanted to know, since it said it expired in December of 2025, what's in place right now?
The stuff continues to be cleaned, the exact mechanism of which I can't explain. I wasn't prepared to answer that question, but the gear's getting cleaned.
You're going to need to speak up just a little bit, please.
Hello?
Hi.
The gear's getting cleaned. I can't explain to you the exact mechanism. I wasn't prepared to answer that question, but we never stopped cleaning it. So,
Right, but so let me ask it a different way. Since there's a cost difference between the contract that expired in December of 2025 and what purportedly will be starting, I guess, July 1st, with the start of the new fiscal year at a per item price of $35. So there's a $9 difference per item of an increase, which is why we have the budget item on here. What I'm asking is what's happened in the 6-month period from the expiration of the last contract to the start of the new fiscal year for the funds that we haven't appropriated yet. Does anybody know?
We're paying that new price now.
Okay.
We're just trying to get it in the budget.
Gotcha.
So that we don't have an overage.
Great, thank you.
Are we good? 3-0, please.
Great, thank you. The next one is hazmat or hazardous materials operations. This is loss of a council of government support of about $91,000. I had asked for an overview, and I actually got some information late from the department on this. COG apportioned out a certain amount of money to 12 different jurisdictions, and $91,000 was the share that Montgomery County was getting. And this supports the maintenance of certain hazmat equipment, but the underlying mechanism there is an existing contract, so they are still contractually bound to do these services.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. The medical director, new vendor contract price escalation for $56,000. The medical director is the licensed physician that oversees the medical aspects of pre-hospital emergency medical services program. This person oversees medical protocols, standards, and procedures for the department. It's a one-year contract that could be renewed up to 4 times. The cost is based on an hourly rate, and it cannot exceed a total of $330,000.
Okay, we're good.
Okay. The Public Safety Training Academy Fire Blast Live, that I believe is the vendor name, fire maintenance contract for $40,000. This cost increase covers biannual inspection and maintenance of the 4 fire simulators in the burn buildings at the training academy, as well as intermittent parts and maintenance between inspection cycles.
We're good. They hit me if they're not good.
Elimination of one-time items. I just wanted to make sure that that comported with what was happening in the contract or the budget last year, and it does, and they are truly one-time items, and that's a reduction. 1.13, though, is the LoSAP amendment that the county executive sent over on April 21st, and it reflects what the MCVFRA had negotiated with the county. It adds $239,000 for the length of service award program in the negotiated agreement. This change requires legislation, which is expected to be introduced in the council at the near future, but I just wanted to note it for your consideration. And I listed the different negotiated items with the FY27 budget impacts for the contract if approved.
And we know that's coming up as well. So,
Yes.
yeah.
And then the 2 CIP project amendments. There's an April 21st amendment that changes the name of the White Flint Fire Station to the North Bethesda Fire Station. There's no cost involved there. And the March 13th amendment for apparatus replacement project, and that's just a funding switch between current revenues and short-term financing for about $8,500.
Okay.
So. And as I noted before, there is the draft budget resolution language that's contained. It's the same as last year with updated dates for the department to be reporting. They've been reporting in a timely basis for all of them. So.
I think we're good with that.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's all I've got for you.
Very good. Anything else, Chief?
The 1.2 million that you found earlier, we'll take it.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Chief. I'm glad we waited till the end for that. Go ahead, please.
I just wanted to give you an opportunity to speak to another issue that has to do with investments that we're making in keeping our first responders safe. And I recognize that it's a difficult budget year, and that we can't do all the things that we need to do. But I think that we should still talk about them. So in March, we got the NIOSH fatality report. That stemmed from the death of Lieutenant Hankins, of course. And there's a recommendation in that report that mentions, continuous evaluation of staffing, and notes that the department is shifting from 3 to 4 person teams, something that we have discussed several times. And I just wanted to give you an opportunity to bring that conversation here and lift that up. If you could give us an update and your thoughts on that.
Yes, and just for note, this weekend is the National Fallen Firefighters Memorial in Emmitsburg, where I will have the honor to do the flag presentation with Ms. Higgins, Lisa. We are still, getting over that situation. I don't know if we ever will, but we're working through. I can tell you one thing. I keep telling our volunteers, our union, keep us on task with the recommendations of the NIOSH. An example I was giving earlier, it would happen at Burdensfield, where we worked together with all of us, and we were able to get 4-person staffing on that truck. We were able to do that at Aspen Hill as well. So in less than 2 years, we were able to do 2 trucks with 4-person staffing. And that was taking the collaboration and the master plan framework into consideration to help us get there. We asked for a couple in this year's budget. Obviously, this is a difficult budget time. I don't want to be in your shoes at all. But we are also going to continue that journey of looking deliberately at everywhere we can, even if it's going to be something that we know we're going to have strong differences about, so that we can continue to do those things. We also are working with the International Association of Fire Chiefs with their International Fellows Program, where they'll bring about 8 or 9 international firefighters. We'll show them the Montgomery County way, and then we will place them on, not as minimum staffing, but place them on ladder trucks so we can get more evidence of why it's important for 4-person staffing, and then we're coming to you to demonstrate those things even more. We will continue to work with our 1664, President Buttle, to find creative ways to do that. We're still working through things to see how we can move forward, but we're going to stay on task with those recommendations. They're not going to get built up with dust on the shelf anywhere. So when you heard me in June of 2024, I want to be aggressive when it comes to our people and the community. So I try to do that behind closed doors more than in public, but those are the things that we will continue to work on. And that's what I'm saying to you, is that we're used to what we're used to. We have to start to get used to new things so we can try new things to address that, with not only asking for more. We're going to ask for more, but not only asking for more.
Absolutely, absolutely. And, this body and this council, we have commitments to fill to make sure that we are providing what is needed to keep our first responders safe. So I appreciate that update, appreciate the work that everyone is engaged in. It's difficult work in a number of ways, but we hold the budget component. So do keep us looped in as we make forward progress on that. Thank you.
Again, thank you all for everything you do. So we're 3-0 for this one. And then the last item on our agenda today is the memorandum of agreement between the county and the Montgomery County Volunteer Fire Rescue Association, fiscal year 2027. Does anybody have any opening comments on this one?
I'll start, and I don't know if Chief Ryman is going to chime in. You know, this is a great combination department, a lot of brilliant people. We're finding creative ways to learn and grow together and serve our community. One of the things that we're having discussions on now is part of the contract where there's an EMS-only job task. And I can tell you, when I talk about we needed 3 ambulances or however many ambulances we need, our volunteer contingent, when we're able to clearly identify the EMS, emergency medical services job tasks, and do other things like having EMS-only job task physicals, because everybody doesn't want to be a firefighter, we're able to be very innovative and recruit and retain volunteers to help us in this space. So we'll have different conversations besides the budget to be able to have resources for our community. So this is a great opportunity through the collective bargaining process, and I look forward to a favorable vote.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, and thank the council
If
for
you
the.
could identify yourself.
Sorry, Chief Ryman, Burtonsville Volunteer Fire Department, and the MCVFRA's chief negotiator for this contract. First, I'd like to thank the council for your continued support of these contracts. As many of you know, we are the only association of our kind in the United States that maintains this sort of contract and this sort of relationship with a county government. As the chief said, there's a lot of different things in the contract this go round. Some of them are very innovative, like trying to find more ways to put more personnel in seats in a more cost-effective manner. We have also had what I would argue is probably the most collaborative bargaining experience in the history of these contracts this go round. That's very important, as this is the first time that we've negotiated directly with the Office of Labor Relations. So that says a lot about the overall collaboration within county government on this topic. In addition to those things like the EMS only medical standards, there are other additions to the contract that further protect the volunteers, adding things like the same cancer screenings that our career partners gained access to in their last contract, doing things to be more fiscally responsible, such as making sure issued turnout gear and other items are returned back to the county so those items that are very expensive can be reused.
Thank you very much again. Thank you all for everything you do. I don't know if anybody else has any other comments. If not, Ms. Wellens, would you like to lead us through, please? And we have legislation that's also coming up on this, right?
Correct, Mr. Chair, and thank you and good afternoon, Mr. Chair and council members. Yes, there will be legislation associated with the MCV FRA agreement that will be introduced in the near term. As I understand it, we received the proposed legislation from the county executive on April 23rd. So we're just getting into shape so that it's formatted so that the council president can get it on the agenda. So I expect that to happen very quickly. In terms of the item before you today, it is the resolution that was introduced on April 14th to approve or reject terms of this memorandum of agreement between the county and the MCV FRA. We received the agreement on May 1st from the county executive. The term of the MOA is July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2029. So we are entering the year 1 of 3 of this agreement. The agreement contains some of the discussion you heard from the chiefs already regarding screenings and physical exams, and I will just quickly go through as a package the other items.
Please.
And then allow you to, ask for any elaboration or questions. So in terms of association funding, and just to remind everyone of the context, what we're doing here is that the council reviews any terms of this agreement that require appropriation of funds, may have a future fiscal impact, are inconsistent with any county law or regulation, or require the enactment or adoption of any county laws or regulations. So again, the association funding would be increased under the new MOA by 2.5% for a fiscal impact for FY27 of around between $8,000 and $9,000. That would be the first item for your consideration. Next, turning to page 2 of the staff memorandum, the nominal fee for volunteers would be increased in addition to sort of a supplemental nominal fee that volunteers receive when they meet certain criteria. And going to item number 3, the MOA also requires a new public safety training academy course. Would have a fiscal impact of approximately $50,000. As was discussed, there are physical exams. The active volunteers would be reimbursed once every 36 months for ultrasound testing. That's extensive, and also would be eligible for reimbursement for up to $800 once every 10 years for certain multi-cancer early detection blood testing. And finally, there are length of service adjustments, but this is the piece that is contingent upon the legislation that is to be introduced. The legislation will involve some increases to LoSAP, increases to eligibility, some alterations with respect to death benefits. And you can see what's set forth here in the memorandum is just the text from the MOA itself, articulating the changes that you'll expect to see in the legislation. Of course, that bill, it will be introduced as soon as possible, and then the legislative process will play out.
So the amount of money, if that passes, since we haven't seen it, we haven't passed it, But the amount of money that would anticipate, this budget could handle it, right? The way that this is set up?
Correct. So that would be included in the budget that you just reviewed.
Right.
So FRS.
Yes? So
Correct. I just want to make sure
everybody's
since
in
we're talking
agreement
about the
on-
budget. Yes.
I mean, that to me is the most, I mean, when we
Correct.
pass it, I want to be on the positive
Right.
side here. That when we pass it, that it can go into effect right then.
Right. It can go into effect right then. It won't require a supplemental.
Right.
It just, the ability to expend the dollars in the new way will be contingent on when the legislation passes.
I'm good with this. Anybody?
So OMB looked like you might have a comment. No? Okay, just wanted to make sure. Want to make sure everybody who wanted to be heard was heard. Okay.
You're good? So we're good. Go ahead.
Great. And Mr. Chair, just one additional thing.
Okay.
I did want to request, if it's with the committee's permission, I would request that I can update the language of Section B. This is on page 2 of the draft memorandum. And it would simply be, the change would simply be to update the fact that we have received the proposed legislation now, because the way it was worded, it contemplates that
Yeah,
we'll receive in the
please
future. So
change
just
that,
a factual update there.
Okay. I think we're all good. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I just wanted to take a minute to commend everybody involved with the process. And, it's great to hear about forward progress between our folks on the ground and leadership. And I think that I've heard from multiple sources now about the positive developments coming out of this. So it feels very substantial, and really appreciate the time and effort that you all have put into it. And Chief Ryman, I know that you drew the straw to take this on, and I know it's a significant undertaking, and much appreciated. And if there's anything that you wanted to add, by all means, feel free. But thank you to all the parties involved.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. We're good. Thank you. And I also wanted to acknowledge Mr. Hartung back there. He's hiding from me. I can't hardly say. But thank you for everything you're doing as well. So it's a 3-0, please.
Great. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you. And with that, guess what? We're adjourned. Thank you. You have got to. I was going to.